Did you know some people believe there are giant holes at the North and South poles leading to a secret world inside our planet? It's said that ancient civilizations, maybe even advanced ones, could be living right under our feet, warmed by a tiny sun at the Earth's core. Some stories even suggest that explorers like the famous Admiral Byrd might have accidentally flown into this inner world and seen things that would change everything we think we know about Earth. Number 5. Halley's Hidden Worlds. Your planet is like an onion, apparently. Imagine the Earth not as a solid ball of rock and magma, but as a series of nested spheres like a Russian doll or a very, very big onion. This wasn't the idea of some wild-eyed dreamer scribbling in a dusty attic, but from a very famous scientist, Edmond Halley. Yes, the same Halley, who has a comet named after him. Back in 1692, Halley wasn't just stargazing. He was also puzzling over some very strange behavior from compasses. Sailors had noticed for a long time that compass needles didn't always point to true north. Sometimes they'd swing a bit to the east, sometimes a bit to the west, and these variations changed over time and in different places. This was a big deal because, in an age of exploration, knowing where north was could be the difference between finding new lands and getting hopelessly lost. Halley thought hard about this. He knew the Earth had a magnetic field, but a simple single magnetic pole couldn't explain these weird shifts. So he came up with a truly mind-bending idea. What if the Earth wasn't solid? What if, he proposed, our planet consisted of an outer shell about 500 miles thick, and then inside that there were two more concentric shells, floating one inside the other, with a solid core at the very center, about the size of Mars. Each of these shells, he thought, might rotate at slightly different speeds and have its own magnetic properties. This complex dance of inner spheres, each with its own magnetism, could, in Halley's view, account for the shifting compass readings that were baffling everyone. But Halley didn't stop there. If you have hollow shells, what's between them? He suggested these spaces were filled with a luminous atmosphere, a kind of glowing gas that could provide light. And if there's light, and presumably warmth from the Earth's internal processes, then why couldn't these inner surfaces be inhabited? Halley himself speculated that these hidden worlds could support life. He even thought that the aurora borealis, those beautiful northern and southern lights, might be gas escaping from these inner atmospheres through thin parts of the Earth's crust, particularly near the poles. It was a way to explain another natural wonder through his model. Think about the implications for a moment. If Halley was right, there wouldn't just be one world, our surface world, but potentially 3 or more separate vast lands hidden deep within the planet. Each shell would have an inner surface and an outer surface, massively increasing the amount of habitable territory. How would gravity work? Proponents of such ideas often suggest that you'd stand on the inner surface of a shell, just as you stand on the outer surface of our shell, with down always being towards the greater mass of that particular shell. Each inner world could have its own unique environment, its own day and night cycle, if the luminous gas pulsed, or if there were inner suns. Halley wasn't trying to write a fantasy story. He was a respected member of the Royal Society, a serious scientist trying to solve a real scientific problem with the knowledge available at the time. His theory of concentric spheres was based on observations and a desire to find a physical explanation for them. While modern science tells us the Earth has a solid inner core, a liquid outer core, a mantle, and a crust, Halley's vision of a layered, potentially inhabited Earth captured imaginations. It opened up the Earth itself as a frontier, not just the distant stars. It implied that the greatest undiscovered territories weren't across the oceans, but right beneath our feet, separated by layers of rock and glowing air. The idea that a mind as brilliant as Halley's entertained such a possibility lends a certain weight to the long history of hollow Earth thinking, suggesting that for centuries, the inside of our planet has been as much a source of wonder and speculation as the heavens above. His theory painted a picture of an Earth far more complex and potentially far more alive than most people would ever dare to imagine. A planet of secret realms and hidden skies. Number 4. Symmes Gateway, the giant holes at the poles you can just walk into. Picture this, it's 1818, and an American Army officer named John Cleves Symmes Junior from St. Louis, Missouri, decides to tell the world something truly astonishing. He sends out a declaration not to a few friends, but to all the world, to wit, to all universities and all the learned societies and to all the distinguished citizens of the United States and other countries. His message: I declare, the earth is hollow and habitable within, containing a number of solid concentric spheres, one within the other, and that it is open at the poles, 12 or 16 degrees. He didn't just think it was hollow. He thought there were massive holes, thousands of miles wide, at both the north and south poles, like giant entryways. Symmes wasn't just casually suggesting this. He was utterly convinced. He believed these openings, which became known as Symmes holes, were real, and that ships could sail right into them. Inside, he envisioned a warm, fertile land, lit not by an inner sun, but by sunlight, reflecting off the inner surfaces of the Earth's shell, and perhaps by the luminous atmosphere that Halley had proposed. He imagined these inner surfaces were just like the outer one, capable of supporting life with their own continents and oceans. The edges of these polar openings, he thought, would be curved gently downwards, so a ship could sail over the lip and into the interior without the crew even realizing they were entering a new world until they saw the land inside. What made Symmes so sure? Pointed to a few things that he believed were evidence. He talked about the migration patterns of animals. Why would birds and reindeer travel further north in the winter if the Arctic was just a frozen wasteland? Perhaps, he argued, they were heading towards the warmer inner world through the polar opening. He also mentioned reports from sailors and whalers who found warmer water and air as they got closer to the poles, which seemed counterintuitive if the poles were the coldest places on Earth. And what about the aurora borealis, the northern lights? Symmes, like Halley before him, thought these lights might be coming from inside the Earth, streaming out through the polar holes. He even suggested that icebergs were formed from freshwater rivers, flowing out of the interior of the Earth. Symmes wasn't content to just announce his theory. He wanted to prove it. He became a passionate advocate for an expedition to the North Pole to find one of these openings and explore the inner world. He lectured across the United States, trying to raise money and support. He even petitioned the U.S. Congress, asking for ships and funding to lead a voyage to the Symmes Hole. While Congress didn't grant his request, he gained a surprising number of followers. One of his most influential supporters was a man named Jeremiah N. Reynolds, an editor and explorer who became a tireless promoter of Symmes's ideas, even after Symmes himself passed away in 1829. Reynolds continued to push for polar exploration, and his advocacy played a role in the eventual launch of the United States exploring expedition in 1838, though it didn't specifically search for Symmes's holes. The implications of Symmes's theory were huge. If there were giant, easily accessible holes at the poles, it meant that a whole new world was waiting to be discovered and explored. Not with rockets to other planets, but with ships sailing into our own. It suggested a direct gateway to potentially vast, untouched lands and perhaps even unknown civilizations. The idea of simply sailing or walking into another realm hidden within our own planet is a powerful one. Symmes's vision wasn't of a complex, multi-layered Earth like Halley's, but a simpler single shell with inviting portals. His persistence, despite widespread ridicule from the scientific community of his day, kept the hollow Earth idea alive in the public imagination. He made the concept feel almost tangible, like something you could just reach out and touch if only you could get to the poles. The legacy of John Cleves Symmes Jr. is a testament to how a bold, even outlandish idea, when pursued with enough passion, can capture the imagination and inspire others to look at the world and what might lie within it in a completely new way. His theory suggested that the ends of the earth weren't dead ends at all, but doorways. Number 3. Admiral Byrd's secret journey. Did a famous explorer find paradise inside Earth? Admiral Richard E. Byrd was a genuine American hero, a pioneering aviator and polar explorer. He was the first to fly over the North Pole in 1926, and later led numerous expeditions to Antarctica. His name is synonymous with courage and exploration, but according to some very persistent stories, one of Byrd's most incredible journeys was kept a secret. A flight that supposedly took him not just over the poles, but into the Earth. These tales often center around a diary, allegedly written by Byrd, detailing an astonishing flight in February 1947. The story as told in these alleged diary entries and subsequent accounts goes something like this. During a flight over the North Pole, or sometimes the South Pole, details vary in different versions, Admiral Byrd and his radio operator flew into a strange mist. Their compasses began to spin wildly, and they lost radio contact. Suddenly, they emerged not over ice and snow, but over a lush green landscape with mountains, forests, rivers, and even animals that looked like mammoths. The air temperature was surprisingly warm. As they flew further, they reportedly saw cities with strange, crystal-like structures and flying machines unlike anything on the surface world. According to this narrative, Byrd's plane was then gently guided or escorted by these unusual flying craft to a landing. He was supposedly met by beings who appeared human-like, but were tall with fair hair and blue eyes. These beings, the story claims, were technologically and spiritually advanced. They revealed that they lived in a world inside the Earth, called Agartha, or simply the inner world. They had been observing the surface world and were deeply concerned about humanity's development and use of atomic bombs. The beings, through a leader often referred to as the Master, delivered a message to Byrd. Humanity must stop its wars and its destructive path, or it would face self-destruction. They expressed hope that surface humans could learn to live in peace. After this encounter, Byrd and his radiomen were supposedly guided back out of the inner world, and their instruments began to function normally again. Upon his return, the story continues. Byrd reported his incredible findings to his superiors in Washington, D.C., but he was ordered to remain silent about what he had seen and heard. The official records of his flights, of course, mention no such encounter. However, proponents of this secret journey point to certain public statements Byrd made later in his life. For example, after his Antarctic expedition Operation High Jump in 1946-47, around the time of the alleged Northern Flight, he spoke in a 1954 television interview about a new continent and an enchanting area beyond the South Pole. In a reported radio interview from 1947, he is quoted as saying, "I'd like to see that land beyond the pole. That area beyond the pole is the center of the great unknown." These quotes are often interpreted by believers as veiled references to his secret discovery. The implications of Admiral Byrd's alleged journey, if true, would be world-shattering. It would mean that a highly advanced civilization exists within our planet. A civilization that is concerned about our welfare but also wary of our destructive tendencies. It would confirm the existence of vast habitable lands inside the Earth, teeming with life, perhaps even prehistoric life forms long extinct on the surface. The message, purportedly delivered to Byrd, carries a heavy weight. A warning from an older, wiser race about the dangers of our own technology and aggression. It would suggest that we are not alone, not even on our own planet, and that there are hidden powers observing us. The authenticity of the secret diary is a major point of contention. Skeptics point out that it only surfaced publicly decades after Byrd's death in 1957, often promoted by individuals already invested in hollow earth theories. They argue it's a forgery, designed to lend credibility to the idea by associating it with a famous and respected explorer. Yet, for those who believe, the story of Admiral Byrd's flight into the inner earth is a powerful piece of evidence. It provides an eyewitness account from a seemingly impeccable source of a reality hidden from the rest of us. It paints a picture of a beautiful, peaceful inner world and its inhabitants, who possess wisdom and technology far beyond our own. Whether fact or fiction, the tale of Admiral Byrd's secret journey continues to fascinate, adding a layer of modern mystery and a hint of urgent warning to the age-old dream of a world within our world. It suggests that one of the 20th century's greatest explorers may have stumbled upon the biggest secret of all time. Number 2. Agartha's ancient wisdom. Is a super-civilization hiding underground? And did the Nazis look for it? Deep beneath the surface of our planet, far from the wars and worries of our everyday lives, some believe there exists a hidden kingdom called Agartha, sometimes spelled Agarti or Agartha. This isn't just a network of caves. It's described as a vast subterranean world, home to millions of inhabitants, with its own cities, culture, and a level of technological and spiritual advancement far beyond our own. The legends say Agartha is ruled by a wise and powerful figure known as the King of the World, who oversees the destiny of the planet and holds the keys to ancient wisdom. The idea of Agartha was popularized in the Western world in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, partly through the writings of figures associated with theosophy, like Helena Blavatsky and French occultists, such as Alexandre Saint-Yves d'Alvitre. Saint-Yves d'Alvitre claimed to have received telepathic communications from Agartha and described it as a utopian society hidden from the surface world to protect its profound knowledge from being misused by less enlightened humans. He wrote that Agartha possessed technology that surface dwellers could only dream of, including advanced energy sources and methods of communication. According to his accounts, Agartha's entrances are concealed in various parts of the world, often in remote mountain ranges like the Himalayas. Another key figure in bringing the Agartha legend to wider attention was Ferdynand Ossendowski, a Polish traveler and writer. In his 1922 book, Beasts, Men, and Gods, Ossendowski recounted his travels through Mongolia during the Russian Revolution. He wrote that Mongolian lamas told him stories of Agarthi, a subterranean realm of 800 million inhabitants ruled by the King of the World. This kingdom, they said, extended its tunnels throughout the entire planet. Ossendowski claimed that the people of Agarthi possessed incredible powers and knowledge, and that they would one day emerge to guide humanity, but only when the surface world was ready to receive their wisdom and live in peace. Sometimes, Agartha is linked with, or considered similar to, Shambhala, another mythical kingdom said to be hidden in the Himalayas, a place of peace, enlightenment, and spiritual power. The story of Agartha takes an even more intriguing and darker turn with its alleged connection to Nazi Germany, claimed that certain high-ranking Nazis, particularly those involved in occult and esoteric societies, like the Thule Society and the Vril Society, were fascinated by the idea of Agartha and other hidden realms. They supposedly believed that Agartha might be the home of a pure Aryan race, the ancestors of the Germanic peoples, and that by finding Agartha they could gain access to powerful ancient technologies and esoteric knowledge that would help them win World War II and achieve world domination. The Ahnenerbe, a Nazi organization dedicated to researching the archaeological and cultural history of the Aryan race, is said to have sponsored expeditions to places like Tibet, allegedly in search of entrances to Agartha or contact with its inhabitants. There are also persistent rumors that the Nazis established secret bases in Antarctica, particularly in a region called Neuschwabenland, with some theories suggesting these bases were intended to connect with an inner Earth realm or even house advanced flying saucers, vril crafts or Honobu, developed with knowledge obtained from these hidden sources. The evidence for Agartha is largely based on these esoteric writings, ancient myths from various cultures about underworlds or hidden paradises, and the anecdotal accounts of travelers like Ossendowski. The alleged Nazi interest is supported by their known fascination with occultism and ancient legends, though concrete proof of a dedicated search for Agartha is elusive and often falls into the realm of conspiracy theory. The implications of Agartha's existence are profound. It would mean that a secret, highly advanced civilization has been coexisting with us, hidden beneath our feet for potentially thousands of years. They would possess knowledge that could solve many of our world's problems, from disease and pollution to conflict, but they choose to remain hidden, perhaps because they deem us unworthy or unready. The idea that ancient wisdom and a blueprint for a perfect society are stored away, waiting for the right time to be revealed, is a powerful one. It suggests that humanity's future might be linked to this subterranean kingdom, and that our spiritual and technological evolution could be guided by these hidden masters. The Nazi connection adds a disturbing layer, implying that this powerful knowledge could also be sought by those with malevolent intentions. Agartha then represents not just a physical place, but a repository of immense power and wisdom, a secret that could either save humanity or, in the wrong hands, lead to even greater disaster. It speaks to a deep-seated human hope for a hidden sanctuary of peace and enlightenment, and a fear of what such power might mean. Number 1. The inner sun and endless caverns, our planet's secret power source. And who lives there? If there really is a world inside our world, how does it work? What lights it up? What keeps it warm? And perhaps most importantly, who or what lives there? These are the questions that sit at the heart of many hollow Earth theories, painting a picture of an internal Earth that is far from being a dark, lifeless void. Central to many of these visions is the concept of an inner sun, a source of perpetual daylight for the inhabitants of the Earth's interior. The nature of this inner sun varies wildly, depending on the theory. Some propose it's a small central star, a miniature version of our own sun, held in place by gravity at the Earth's core. This tiny sun would provide light and heat, creating a stable, temperate climate on the inner surface of the Earth's shell. Imagine looking up from an inner continent and seeing a softly glowing orb hanging in the center of your sky, always present, meaning no night, just eternal day. Marshall B. Gardner, an American writer in the early 20th century, was a prominent proponent of this idea. He believed the Earth was a hollow shell about 800 miles thick, with a central sun 600 miles in diameter, and that the polar openings Symmes talked about were real. Gardner argued that nebulae, which we now know are clouds of gas and dust or distant galaxies, were actually new planets in the process of forming, showing a central sun and an outer shell. Other theories suggest the light doesn't come from a distinct sun, but from a glowing, electrified plasma at the Earth's center, or that the entire concave inner surface of the Earth itself is bioluminescent, perhaps due to unique minerals or even a vast planet-spanning fungal or microbial ecosystem that gives off light. Some even tie it to the Earth's core being intensely radioactive, with this energy somehow converted into light and a life-sustaining warmth. Regardless of the mechanism, the presence of an internal light source is crucial for the idea of a habitable inner Earth teeming with complex life. And what about that life? Possibilities are as vast as the supposed inner caverns themselves. Some theories populate the inner Earth with lost human civilizations, perhaps survivors of Atlantis or the Muria, or ancient tribes who sought refuge underground long ago and developed their own unique societies in isolation. These could be the advanced, peaceful beings that Admiral Byrd allegedly encountered, or the guardians of Agartha's wisdom. They might be physically similar to us, or they could have adapted to their unique environment over millennia, perhaps becoming taller or developing different sensory abilities. But human-like beings are just the beginning. Many Hollow Earth narratives include encounters with creatures thought to be long extinct on the surface. Mammoths, dinosaurs, and other prehistoric beasts are often said to roam freely in the warm, lush landscapes of the inner Earth, having found a haven there while ice ages and other catastrophes changed the surface world. This idea taps into the thrill of discovering a lost world right under our noses. Then there are the more exotic inhabitants. Some theories speak of giants, descendants of ancient races who were too large or too different to coexist with surface humans. Others, particularly in more modern conspiracy theories, suggest that the inner Earth is home to non-human entities, perhaps reptilian humanoids, who are the secret puppet masters of the surface world, or even alien races who established underground bases on Earth long ago. These beings are often depicted as having advanced technology, including aircraft, often described as UFOs, that can travel between the inner and outer Earth, through hidden tunnels or the polar openings. The environment of this inner world is usually described as a paradise, with vast interconnected cavern systems, underground oceans, and incredibly fertile land. Constant, gentle light of the inner sun and a stable climate would create a perfect greenhouse for all kinds of flora and fauna. Imagine enormous glowing mushrooms, forests of strange trees adapted to the perpetual daylight, and rivers flowing through landscapes untouched by surface pollution or human destruction. What facts do proponents point to for these ideas? Beyond the stories and alleged encounters already mentioned, they might cite unusual seismic activity that doesn't fit standard geological models, suggesting vast empty spaces or unusual energy signatures. They might point to ancient myths and legends from cultures all over the world that speak of underworlds, gods who live inside the earth, or heroes who journeyed to subterranean realms. Some interpret certain unexplained disappearances of people or aircraft in specific regions, like the Bermuda Triangle, though not directly polar, as evidence of portals or influences from these inner Earth civilizations. Modern UFO sightings, especially those that seem to emerge from or disappear into the ground or the ocean, are also sometimes linked to inner Earth inhabitants and their advanced craft. The implications are almost too staggering to comprehend. If our planet hosts an inner sun, vast caverns, and diverse populations ranging from lost human tribes and prehistoric animals to advanced non-human species, it means that the Earth we know is just a tiny fraction of the whole. It would mean that history, biology, and even our place in the universe are completely different from what we've been taught. The surface could be just the skin of a much larger, more complex, and more wondrous living system. It suggests that the greatest mysteries and the most profound discoveries might not be out in space, but deep beneath our own feet, waiting in a world lit by an eternal, hidden sun. The sheer scale of this possibility, the idea of entire ecosystems and civilizations thriving in secret, continues to fuel the belief that our Earth is indeed hollow and full of wonders.